The Way of the World by William Congreve. Act I scene I a chocolate house. Scene room into the same, where modesty's ill manners, 'tis but fit that impudence and malice pass for wit. In notes odd ire est operi labyrinth. It is worth your while, ye that do not wish well to adulterers, to hear how they are hampered on all sides. Lib. I. Satires I. 237 right, hic metuat deprensa. The woman fears for her dowry if she should be caught. Lib. I. Satires I. 2. 131 right, in the vain joy's sight. A reference is here intended to the various shows which were common in London at this time. Right though senseless, quaff. That is, the well-dressed barbarians know Congreve's name and power, such as his compelling art, although they are insensible to mirth except when they laugh and feel wise only when they have drunk to a surfeit. Right, Arabella. A generic name for the ladies who inspire the lyrical name of Congreve. Right, William glorious in the strife. The allusion is to Congreve's to the king, on the taking of Nama. Right, in her own nest, changeling kind, an allusion to the fact that the cuckoo lays her eggs in the nest of another bird. Right, the squire, undone. Butted still, that is, always heaped with loathsome flattery. Right declares for a friend and ratafia. Ratafia was a liqueur flavored with fruits. The term friend as here used indicates a man-friend with whom one's relations were not entirely unquestionable. Right, continued in the state of nature. Gone on in a natural course. Right, the last canonical hour. Canonical hours were hours prescribed by the canons when prayers might be said. Right, Pancras. The Church of St. Pancras in the Fields. Right, Duke's Place. St. James's Church, Duke's Place, Aldgate, became notorious for the irregular marriages, under the name of fleet marriages, that were to be purchased there. Right, Dame Potlet. Potlet or Pertelote, the name of the hen in Chaucer's Nonny Priest's Tale. Right, Rosamond's Pond. A famous meeting place of lovers, situated in the southwestern corner of St. James's Park. Right, the Monster in the Tempest. Caliban, right, commonplace of comparisons. A collection of figures or quotations for the purposes of argument or conversation. Right, cinnamon water. A drink composed of sugar, water, and spirit flavored with cinnamon. Right, he would slip you out of this chocolate house. He would slip out of this chocolate house. This is an instance of the ethical dative. Right, thou what tell me. The form what is a contraction of wouldst. Compare also shat above. Right, worse than a Quaker hates a parrot. Because the parrot is so talkative. Right, than a fishmonger hates a hard frost. The work of the fish peddler was made very disagreeable by cold weather. Right, the Mall. A broad promenade in St. James's Park, now the street known as Pall Mall. Right, transcendently. An affectation in the fashionable speech of the day. Right, Penthesilea. Queen of the Amazons. Right, you have a mask. Masks were commonly worn in the 18th century. Right, like Musker in the Fox of Terms. To stand upon terms is to dally over the terms of an agreement. Musker in Ben Jonson's comedy Volpone deceives the suitors of Volpone by making them believe that his master is about to die and make them his heirs. Right, the beau monde. The world of fashion. Right, tift and tift. A tift is a fit of perverse fretting, a humor. Right, you are not fools. From the general trend of the conversation, it would seem that cos is here used in the sense of a cause of treatment in which fools are the chief medicinal agent. Right, like Solomon hanging. Such biblical subjects often formed the basis for designs in tapestry. Right, by. A contraction of God be with you. Right, mopus. A dull person. Right, Spanish paper. Used for the complexion, right, with a bit of nutmeg. Nutmeg was much eaten in 18th century England. Right, like Mariton's Quixote. Mariton's is a chambermaid with whom Don Quixote persists in being in love. Right, Qualls and Prynne. Francis Qualls was a writer of sacred poems, author of Divine Emblems, one of the most popular works of the age. William Prynne was a lawyer and pamphleteer, author of Historiomastix, a savage attack upon the stage in the time of Charles I. Right, the shot view of the stage. The full title is A Shot View of the Profaneness and Immorality of the English Stage. This righteous attack on the abuses of the stage by Jeremy Collier caused a flutter among the playwrights, and in time brought about a modicum of reform. Congreve was especially censured. Right, Robin from Locket's. One of the draws or waiters at Locket's ordinary in Charing Cross. Right, like a Long Lane penthouse. Long Lane from West Smithfield to Barbican was occupied by the sellers of old clothes. A penthouse was here a species of continuous shed or arcade, covering the walk. Right, the Million Lottery. A lottery the prizes of which amounted to £1 million in the advertisements. Right, the whole caught upon a birthday. Because of the presents that custom demanded. Right, Ludgate, Blackfriars, Old Mitten. Ludgate was one of the beta debtors' prisons. It abutted on the precinct of Blackfriars. To angle with a mitten refers to the custom of imprisoned debtors who begged alms of passers-by through a grating. Here doubtless a string was let down from an upper window with a mitten in which the benevolent passerby might put his farthing, subsequently to be drawn up. Right has a month's mind. To have an inclination to a thing. Right, pas spot out. Master key, right, any chemist upon the day of projection. The culmination of an experiment in alchemy, when the metals were supposed to be transmuted into gold, was called a projection. Right, drap de berry. Probably drap or a tuft de barret, cloth of berry, described as Russian, doubtless here a cos cloth. Right, 'tis like on her hips. Lacing under these conditions would cause the hips to increase in size. Right, Rhenish wine tea. Taken to reduce flesh. Right, a discarded toast. A lady who has ceased to be the reigning belle and subject of the toasts of her friends and suitors. Right, I'll take my death. I hope to die if what I say is not true. Right, in the main. Main is here mean, the middle or tenor part with which the other two harmonize. There is also a play on the more obvious meaning of the word. Right, the ordinaries paid for setting the psalm. The ordinary was the chaplain of Newgate Prison, whose duty it was to prepare condemned criminals for death. Right, in the name of Bartholomew and his fair. The Fair of St. Bartholomew, or St. Bartholomew, was held in Smithfield every August. It was the great cloth fair of England and is here invoked by Whitwoud because of the strange appearance of his brother. Right, smoke him. Torment, mock, tease him, right thereafter as 'tis meant. Take as it, i.e. offense is meant, right, a hare's scut. A hare's shot tail, equivalent to a fig for your service. Right, Salop? Shropshire, an inland county of England bordering on Wales. Right, like a call of sergeant. Sergeant appears here to have its earlier meaning, a servant. Right, out of your time, while you were still indentured to an attorney. Right, Furnival's Inn. In Holborn, formerly one of the inns of Chancery, attached to Lincoln's Inn. Right, reckon. Reckon, in the old editions reckon, absurdly modernized reckon, is the crane or iron bar from which hung the pots in the fireplace. Right, Dox's letter. In 1696, Ichabod Dox started his newsletter. It was printed on good paper in imitation of writing with a space for the gentleman who sent it to his friends to write by hand matters of private business. Right, weekly bill. Several newspapers contained the word weekly in their titles as the weekly news, the weekly packet. Right, if and how, abate. If peace holds whereby taxes will be reduced, Sir Wilful speaks with provincial indirectness. Right, 'tis like there may. Very likely there is. Right, rally their best friends to choose. That is, make as much fun of them as they like. Right, like a deputy lieutenant's hall. That is, with all sorts of arms. The horns of the cuckold were often spoken of as armament. Right, cap of maintenance. A cap or hat which was a sign of high office, carried before a sovereign or person of high authority in a procession. Right, I'll set his hand in. See him well started. Right, how, lady? Just what are your feelings toward your lady? Right, Sir John Suckling. A famous lyric and dramatic poet of the early 17th century. Right, Theosis, a youth train. A line from a poem of Edmund Waller. Right, I prithee, slight toy. These and some of the following lines are Suckling's. Right, all a case. It is all the same. Right, like Phoebus boy. A further line from the same poem by Waller. Right, in things of common application. In the affairs of everyday life. Right, douceurs, ye sommels du matin. Sweetnesses, ye morning naps. Right, hog's bones, hare's gall, cat. A playful exaggeration of some of the popular nostrums of the day. Right, Barbados waters. A cordial flavored with orange peel. Right, an unsized camlet. Camlet was a light stuff of wool and linen, formerly from the East. Unsized, that is, unstiffened, not sized. Right, noli prosque. To be unwilling to prosecute, an acknowledgement by the plaintiff that he will not press a suit further. Right, my dear Lacedaemonian. Applied to petulant on account of his power as an epitomizer of words, as Whitwoud says. Right, and Baldwin yonder. The name of the fox in the beast epic Reynard the Fox also applied to the ass by Chaucer. Right, a Gemini, you. Gemini, the name for the twin stars Castor and Pollux, was often used of pairs of things. Right, Borachio. A villain, follower of Don John, in Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Borachio is the Spanish term for a leather wine bottle, hence used for a drunkard. Right, bastinadoed with broomsticks. That is, beaten on the soles of the feet. Right, Salopian. An inhabitant of Salop or Shropshire. Right, a balladmonger. A seller of ballads. In 18th century London, these were sold upon the streets by itinerant peddlers. Right, Frissonia gogget. A piece of apparel for the neck, a kerchief, made of Frissonia, perhaps the same word as frissen or fries, a woolen stuff originally made in Friesland. The word frissonia does not apparently occur elsewhere. Right, a cast servingman. A servingman that has been discharged, right, and been put upon his clergy. Fast to plead the benefit of the clergy, or privilege of exemption from capital punishment because of an ability to read and write, meddle or make. Have anything to do with the affair, right, Abigail's and Andrew's. Abigail was a common name for a lady's maid, Andrew for a valet, right, Philander, a lover in Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, ruined by the lustful Gabrina. Here merely a lover with an uncomplimentary allusion to foible, right, I'll Duke's place you. Marry you in a hurry as they do at Duke's Place, Aldgate, where St. James's Church was situated, a place notorious for irregular marriages. Right, a bridewell bride. A loose woman committed to a prison for vagrants and social criminals. The prison was supposed to stand over the well of St. Bride. Right, a brass counter. A small piece of metal used as a token and in accounting. Right, in a coif like a man midwife. The legal costume of the day included a hood. Right, Doomsday Book. A survey of England taken in 1086. Right, cantharides. A medicament used for blistering. Right, the Temple. One of the Inns of Court where students at law were educated. Right, exceeding the barbarity of a Muscovite husband. The Russian was often used in the 18th century as the symbol of roughness and cruelty. Right from his Tsarish Majesty's retinue. An allusion to the visit of the Tsar, Peter I, 3 years before. Right, while the instrument is drawing. While the agreement is being drawn up. Right, by a lady, by our lady. Right, oh the quorum. Certain justices of the peace whose presence was essential to constitute a bench. Right, an old fox. A colloquial name for a sod. Right, a mittimus. A command in writing to a jailer to keep the person in custody in close confinement. Here the vellum upon which such an order might be written. Right, bear garden flourish. A flourish suitable for a bear garden. Bear baiting formed one of the lowest types of amusement in 17th century London. These places were the scenes of many brawls. Right, Messalina's poems. Messalina was the wife of the Emperor Claudian. Her name is constantly associated with incontinence. Right, paid in kind. In order to realize the full sense of this play upon words, one must bear in mind that the idea of children was seldom separated from the word kind. Right, audire est operi pretium, persedia rect qui michis non voltis, metuat doti deprensa. Epilogue. After our epilogue, this crowd dismisses. I'm thinking how this play'll be pulled to pieces. But pray consider, ere you doom its fall, how hard a thing 'twould be to please you all. There are some critics so with spleen diseased, they scarcely come inclining to be pleased, and sure he must have more than mortal skill, who pleases anyone against his will. Then, all bad poets we are sure are foes, and how their numbers swelled the town well knows in shoals. I've mocked 'em judging in the pit, though they're on no pretence for judgment fit, but that they have been damned for want of wit. Since when they, by their own offences taught, set up for spies on plays, and finding fault. Others there are whose malice we'd prevent, such, who watch plays, with scurrilous intent to mock out who by characters are meant, and though no perfect likeness they can trace, yet each pretends to know the copied face. These, with false glosses, feed their own ill nature, and turn to libel what was meant a satire. May such malicious fops this fortune find, to think themselves alone the fools designed, if any are so arrogantly vain, to think they singly can support a scene, and furnish fool enough to entertain. For well the learned and the judicious know, that satire scorns to stoop so meanly low, as any one abstracted fop to show. For as when painters form a matchless face, they from each fair one catch some different grace, and shining features in one portrait blend, to which no single beauty must pretend, so poets oft do, in one piece expose whole belles assemblies of coquettes and beaux. The Way of the World, imprint this ebook, is the product of many hours of hard work by volunteers for standard ebooks, and builds on the hard work of other literature lovers made possible by the public domain. This particular ebook is based on a transcription from Project Gutenberg and on digital scans from the Internet Archive. The source text and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. They may still be copyrighted in other countries, so users located outside of the United States must check their local laws before using this ebook. The creators of, and contributors to, this ebook dedicate their contributions to the worldwide public domain via the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain Dedication. For full license information, see the uncopyright at the end of this ebook. Standard eBooks is a volunteer-driven project that produces ebook editions of public domain literature using modern typography, technology, and editorial standards, and distributes them free of cost. You can download this and other ebooks carefully produced for true book lovers at standardbooks.org. Prologue of those few fools, who with ill stars are cursed, sure scribbling fools, called poets, fare the worst. For they're a sort of fools which fortune makes, and after she has made 'em fools, forsakes. With nature's oafs 'tis quite a different case, for fortune favors all her idiot race. In her own nest the cuckoo eggs we find, all which she broods to hatch the changeling kind. 7 no portion for her own she has to spare, so much she dotes on her adopted care. Poets are bubbles by the town drawn in, suffered at first some trifling stakes to win, but what unequal hazards do they run? Each time they write they venture all they've won. The squire that's butted still is sure to be undone. 8 This author, heretofore, has found your favor, but pleads no merit from his past behavior. To build on that might prove a vain presumption, should grants to poets made admit resumption, and in Pontius he must lose his seat, if that be found a forfeited estate. He owns, with toil he wrought the following scenes, but if they are not ne'er spare him for his pains, damn him the maw. Have no commiseration for dullness on mature deliberation. He swears he'll not resent one hissed off scene, nor, like those peevish wits, his play maintain, who, to assert their sense, your taste arraign. Some plot we think he has, and some new thought, some humour too, no farce, but that's a fault. Satire, he thinks, you ought not to expect, for so reformed a town who dares correct. To please, this time, has been his sole pretence, he'll not instruct, lest it should give offence. Should he by chance a knave or fool expose, that hurts none here, sure here are none of those. In short, our play shall, with your leave to show it, give you one instance of a passive poet, who to your judgments yields all resignation, so save or damn, after your own discretion. The Way of the World by William Congreve. Uncopyright may you do good and not evil. May you find forgiveness for yourself and forgive others. May you share freely, never taking more than you give. Copyright pages exist to tell you that you can't do something. Unlike them, this uncopyright page exists to tell you that the writing and artwork in this ebook are believed to be in the United States public domain. That is, they are believed to be free of copyright restrictions in the United States. The United States public domain represents our collective cultural heritage, and items in it are free for anyone in the United States to do almost anything at all with, without having to get permission. Copyright laws are different all over the world, and the source text or artwork in this ebook may still be copyrighted in other countries. If you're not located in the United States, you must check your local laws before using this ebook. Standard ebooks makes no representations regarding the copyright status of the source text or artwork in this ebook in any country other than the United States. Non-authorship activities performed on items that are in the public domain, so-called sweat of the brow, work, don't create a new copyright. That means that nobody can claim a new copyright on an item that is in the public domain for, among other things, work like digitization, mock-up, or typography. Regardless, the contributors to this ebook release their contributions under the terms in the CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain dedication, thus dedicating to the worldwide public domain all of the work they've done on this ebook, including but not limited to metadata, the title page, imprint, colophon, this uncopyright, and any changes or enhancements to, or mock-up on, the original text and artwork. This dedication doesn't change the copyright status of the source text or artwork. We make this dedication in the interest of enriching our global cultural heritage, to promote free and libre culture around the world, and to give back to the unrestricted culture that has given all of us so much. Table of Contents Landmarks, Act Roman 2 Scene I St. James's Park. Scene Roman 2 the same, I there's my grief, that's the sad change of life, to lose my title and yet keep my wife. Act Roman 3 Scene I a room in Lady Wishfot's house. Scene Roman 2 Lady Wishfot's closet. Scene Roman 3 a room in Lady Wishfot's house. Song loves but the frailty of the mind when 'tis not with ambition joined, a sickly flame, which if not fed, expires, and feeding, wastes in self-consuming fires. 'Tis not to wound a wanton boy or amorous youth that gives the joy, but 'tis the glory to have pierced a swain, for whom inferior beauties sighed in vain. Then I alone the conquest prize, when I insult a rival's eyes. If there's delight in love, 'tis when I see that hot, which others bleed for me. All husbands must or pain or shame endure, the wise too jealous are, fools too secure. Act Roman 4 Seen I a room in Lady Wishfart's house. There never yet was woman made, nor shall, but to be cursed, repeating and walking about. Theosis, a youth of the inspired train. 73 Repeating. I prithee spare me, gentle boy, press me no more for that slight toy. 74 That foolish trifle of a heart. Sir Wilful, I swear it will not do its part, though thou dost thine, employ'st thy power and art. Natural, easy suckling, I, ha, ha, like Phoebus sung the no less amorous boy. 76 Scene Roman 2 The dining room in Lady Wishfart's house. Hot, and you grutch me your liquor, make a bill, give me more drink and take my purse, sings. Prithee fill me the glass till it laugh in my face with ale that is potent and mellow. He that whines for a loss is an ignorant ass, for a bumper has not its fellow. But if you would have me marry my cousin, say the word, and I'll dot. Wilful will dot, that's the word. Wilful will dot, that's my crest, my motto I have forgot. In vino veritas aunt. If I drunk your health today, cousin, I am a Borachio. But if you have a mind to be married, say the word and send for the piper. Wilful will dot. If not, dust it away and let's have tea other round. Tony? Odds hot, where's Tony? Tony's an honest fellow, but he spits after a bumper, and that's a fault, sings. We'll drink and we'll never ha done, boys. Put the glass then around with the sun, boys. Let Apollo's example invite us, for he's drunk every night, and that makes him so bright, that he's able next morning to light us. The sun's a good pimple, an honest soaker, he has a cellar at your antipodes. If I travel, aunt, I touch at your antipodes. Your antipodes are a good rascally sort of topsy-turvy fellows. If I had a bumper, I'd stand upon my head and drink a health to him. A match or no match, cousin with the hard name. Aunt, Wilful will dot. If she has her maidenhead, let her look to tea. If she has not, let her keep her own counsel in the meantime, and cry out at the 9 months' end. Turks, no Turks, aunt. Your Turks are infidels, and believe not in the grape. Your Muhammadan, your Mussulman is a dry stinkard. No offense, aunt. My map says that your Turk is not so honest a man as your Christian. I cannot find by the map that your Mufti is orthodox, whereby it is a plain case that orthodox is a hard word, aunt, and hiccups. Greek for claret. Sings. To drink is a Christian diversion, unknown to the Turk or the Persian. Let Muhammadan fools live by heathenish rules and be damned over teacups and coffee. But let British lads sing, crown a health to the king, and a fig for your sultan and Sophie. Ah, Tony, lead on little Tony. I'll follow thee, my Antony, my Tantony. Sirrah, thou shalt be my Tantony, and I'll be thy pig. Sings, and a fig for your sultan and Sophie. Ere long you shall substantial proof receive that I'm an errant knight. Act V Scene I a room in Lady Wishfart's house. Scene Roman 2 Another room in Lady Wishfart's house. Scene Roman 3 The same. From hence let those be warned, who mean to wed, lest mutual falsehood stain the bridal bed, for each deceiver to his cost may find that marriage frauds too oft are paid in kind. 112. Colophon, The Way of the World, was published in 1700 by William Congreve. This ebook was produced for Standard eBooks by B. Timothy Keith, and is based on a transcription produced in 1998 by David Price and distributed proofreaders for Project Gutenberg and on digital scans from the Internet Archive. The cover page is adapted from The Love Letter, a painting completed in 1770 by Jean-Honoré Fragonard. The cover and title pages feature the League Spartan and Sots Mill Gaudi typefaces created in 2014 and 2009 by the League of Movable Type. This edition was released on June 26, 2025, 7:46 p.m., and is based on revision BFE 9E84. The first edition of this ebook was released on August 27, 2020, 4:51 p.m. You can check for updates to this ebook, view its revision history, or download it for different e-reading systems at standardbooksorg/ebooks/William Congreve/The Way of the World. The volunteer-driven Standard eBooks project relies on readers like you to submit typos, corrections, and other improvements. Anyone can contribute at Standard Booksorg. Commendatory verses to Mr. Congreve, occasioned by his comedy called The Way of the World when pleasures falling to the low delight, in the vain joys of the uncertain sight. 3 No sense of wit when rude spectators know, but in distorted gesture, farce, and show. How could, great author, your aspiring mind dare to write only to the few refined? Yet though that nice ambition you pursue, 'tis not in Congreve's power to please but few. Implicitly devoted to his fame, well-dressed barbarians know his awful name, though senseless they're of mirth, but when they laugh, as they feel wine, But when, till drunk, they quaff point four on you from fate, a lavish passion fell in every way of writing to excel. Your muse applause to Arabella 5 brings, in notes as sweet as Arabella sings. Whene'er you draw an undissembled woe, with sweet distress your rural numbers flow. Pastora's the complaint of every swain, Pastora still the echo of the plain. Or if your muse describe, with warming fosse, the wounded Frenchman falling from his hoss, and her own William glorious in the strife, 6 bestowing on the prostrate foe his life, you the great act as generously rehearse, and all the English furies in your verse. By your selected scenes and handsome choice, ennobled comedy exalts her voice. You check unjust esteem and fond desire, and teach to scorn what else we should admire. The just impression taught by you we bear. The player acts the world the player, whom still that world unjustly disesteems, though he alone professes what he seems. But when your muse assumes her tragic part, she conquers and she reigns in every heart, to mourn with her men cheat their private woe, and generous pities all the grief they know. The widow, who, impatient of delay, from the town joys must mask it to the play, joins with your mourning bride's resistless moan, and weeps a loss she slighted when her own. You give us torment, and you give us ease, and vary our afflictions as you please. Is not a heart so kind as yours in pain, to load your friends with cares you only feign? Your friends in grief composed yourself to leave? But 'tis the only way you'll e'er deceive. Then still, great sir, your moving power employ, to lull our sorrow and correct our joy. Richard Steele. Dedication to the Right Honourable Ralph, Earl of Mountague, etc. My lord, whether the world will arraign me of vanity or not, that I have presumed to dedicate this comedy to your lordship, I am yet in doubt, though, it may be, it is some degree of vanity even to doubt of it. One who has at any time had the honour of your lordship's conversation cannot be supposed to think very meanly of that which he would prefer to your perusal. Yet it were to incur the imputation of too much sufficiency to pretend to such a merit as might abide the test of your lordship's censure. Whatever value may be wanting to this play, while yet it is mine, will be sufficiently made up to it when it is once become your lordship's, and it is my security that I cannot have overrated it more by my dedication than your lordship will dignify it by your patronage. That it succeeded on the stage was almost beyond my expectation, for but little of it was prepared for that general taste, which seems now to be predominant in the palates of our audience. Those characters which are meant to be ridiculed in most of our comedies are of fools so gross, that in my humble opinion, they should rather disturb than divert the well-natured and reflecting part of an audience. They are rather objects of charity than contempt, and instead of moving our mirth, they ought very often to excite our compassion. This reflection moved me to design some characters which should appear ridiculous not so much through a natural folly, which is incorrigible, and therefore not proper for the stage, as through an affected wit. A wit which, at the same time that it is affected, is also false. As there is some difficulty in the formation of a character of this nature, so there is some hazard which attends the progress of its success upon the stage. For many come to a play so overcharged with criticism that they very often let fly their censure, when through their rashness they have mistaken their aim. This I had occasion lately to observe, for this play had been acted 2 or 3 days before some of these hasty judges could find the leisure to distinguish betwixt the character of a witwoud and a true wit. I must beg your lordship's pardon for this digression from the true cause of this epistle, but that it may not seem altogether impertinent, I beg that I may plead the occasion of it, in part of that excuse of which I stand in need, for recommending this comedy to your protection. It is only by the countenance of your lordship, and the few so qualified, that such who write with care and pains can hope to be distinguished, for the prostituted name of poet promiscuously levels all that bear it. Terence, the most correct writer in the world, had a Scipio and a Laelius, if not to assist him, at least to support him in his reputation, and notwithstanding his extraordinary merit, it may be their countenance was not more than necessary. The purity of his style, the delicacy of his turns, and the justness of his characters were all of them beauties which the greater part of his audience were incapable of tasting. Some of the caustic strokes of Plautus, so severely censured by Horace, were more likely to affect the multitude, such who come with expectation to laugh at the last act of a play, and are better entertained with 2 or 3 unseasonable jests than with the artful solution of the fable. As Terence excelled in his performances, so had he great advantages to encourage his undertakings, for he built most on the foundations of Menenda. His plots were generally modelled, and his characters ready drawn to his hand. He copied Menander, and Menander had no less light in the formation of his characters from the observations of Theophrastus, of whom he was a disciple. And Theophrastus, it is known, was not only the disciple, but the immediate successor of Aristotle, the first and greatest judge of poetry. These were great models to design by, and the further advantage which Terence possessed towards giving his plays the due ornaments of purity of style and justness of manners, was not less considerable from the freedom of conversation which was permitted him with Laelius and Scipio, two of the greatest and most polite men of his age. And, indeed, the privilege of such a conversation is the only certain means of attaining to the perfection of dialogue. If it has happened in any part of this comedy that I have gained a turn of style or expression more correct, or at least more corrigible, than in those which I have formerly written, I must, with equal pride and gratitude, ascribe it to the honor of your lordships admitting me into your conversation, and that of a society where everybody else was so well worthy of you. In your retirement last summer from the town, for it was immediately after that this comedy was written. If I have failed in my performance, it is only to be regretted, where there were so many not inferior either to a Scipio or a Laelius, that there should be one wanting equal in capacity to a Terence. If I am not mistaken, poetry is almost the only art which has not yet laid claim to your lordship's patronage. Architecture and painting, to the great honor of our country, have flourished under your influence and protection. In the meantime, poetry, the eldest sister of all arts and parent of most, seems to have resigned her birthright, by having neglected to pay her duty to your lordship, and by permitting others of a later extraction to prepossess that place in your esteem, to which none can pretend a better title. Poetry, in its nature, is sacred to the good and great. The relation between them is reciprocal, and they are ever propitious to it. It is the privilege of poetry to address them, and it is their prerogative alone to give it protection. This received maxim is a general apology for all writers who consecrate their labors to great men. But I could wish, at this time, that this address were exempted from the common pretense of all dedications, and that, as I can distinguish your lordship, even among the most deserving, so this offering might become remarkable by some particular instance of respect, which should assure your lordship that I am, with all due sense of your extreme worthiness and humanity, my lord, your lordship's most obedient and most obliged humble servant, Will Congreve. Dramatis personae Fainall, in love with Mrs. Marwood Mirabel, in love with Mrs. Millamant Whitwoud, follower of Mrs. Millamant Petulant, follower of Mrs. Millamant Sir Wilful Whitwoud, half-brother to Whitwoud, and nephew to Lady Wishfot Waitwell, servant to Mirabel Lady Wishfot, enemy to Mirabel, for having falsely pretended love to her Mrs. Millamant, a fine lady, niece to Lady Wishfot, and loves Mirabel Mrs. Marwood, friend to Mr. Fainall, and likes Mirabel Mrs. Fainall, daughter to Lady Wishfot, and wife to Fainall, formerly friend to Mirabel Foible, woman to Lady Wishfot Mincing, woman to Mrs. Millamant Betty, waiting maid at a chocolate house Peg, maid to Lady Wishfot Coachman, dancers, footmen, and attendants seen, London. The time equal to that of the representation.